To introduce our study, we focused on the opioid epidemic that has happened and continues to have an effect on us today. Um, I wanted to offer a new view as to some of the problems and possible solutions for this issue. Um, as our title suggests, we focused on the rates of discontinuation and non-publication of chronic pain clinical trials. So essentially, there's this big database entitled clinicaltrials.gov that's a big log and history of all the clinical trials that are currently taking place, that have taken place, and shows all their statuses of where they're at in their progress. And so what we did was we used that database to search for all the chronic pain clinical trials that occurred from starting in January 2000 all the way to October of 2017. And that initial search gave us 1,800 results. So there were 1,800 clinical trials that had to do with chronic pain that occurred between January 2000 to October of 2017. But we noticed that of those 1,800, there were 408 clinical trials that were unaccounted for, meaning that there were 296 that were labeled as complete on clinicaltrials.gov, but had no publication associated with them. And there were 112 clinical trials labeled as discontinued, but there was no reason for discontinuation. It was just unknown. And so what we did was we sent a big email template out to all the contact lists associated with each of those 408 clinical trials, and as a way to track down some of these studies. And so these two figures show our efforts there, where of those completed trials that had no publications associated with them, of the 296, after emailing, we tracked down 281 publications. So we tracked down quite a few of those, but that still left 15 clinical trials unaccounted for that had no results published. And then of the 112 discontinued trials that had no reason labeled for discontinuation, we ended up, after emails, getting 71 of those clinical trials offering a reason for why they discontinued. And that leaves us about 40 or 50 discontinued trials that still have no reason for discontinuation. And this figure just breaks down all the clinical trials that were associated with our study, whether it was a clinical trial associated with a medical device, some sort of pharmaceutical drug, or some sort of behavioral therapy. But the main thing I kind of want to focus on is this funding source. We noticed that a lot of the completed clinical trials that had no publication associated with them, as well as a lot of the discontinued trials, were that had no reason for discontinuation. A lot of them were funded, and so that kind of just adds insult to injury, where it's already bad to not publish your results, your findings as a way to progress the scientific community. But to also have that research funded that had no results to offer, that's quite an issue. And so that brings us to our main takeaway and possible future areas of research is that, clinicaltrials.gov is a good resource, but there's got to be a better one out there. There's got to be better recording and communication methods. Just through our research, we found holes in the system that could definitely be improved. We also need to follow up on our funding. To have these research trials funded that don't, display their results for everyone to see is a big issue. It's a big research waste. And that takes us to our last one, is just overall, we need to prevent this research waste. And I think one of the biggest ways we can do that, that for some reason we overlook at times, is that many researchers think that their findings need to be statistically significant. But a big thing is that, although statistical significance may have an effect on the impact factor of your study, it shouldn't be the sole determinant of whether or not you should publish your findings, because those studies that are, that are not statistically significant still offer or still benefit other researchers and help people not make the same mistakes or improve upon procedures and things of that nature. So this is our study, and thank you for letting us be a part of OSU Research Day.